All right. All right. All right. All right. All right. All right. Happy, what is today? Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. It is Thursday, and I am here excited to talk about Heart and Hustle, Heals and Feels. I usually do my Heart and Hustle, um, like reviews earlier in the week, but I've had a very busy week. I had some really big things going on, and so I wasn't able to get it done earlier this week. And so I wanted to make sure that I got it done before tomorrow, because tomorrow Scorpio Mo and I are doing the review for Love and Marriage Huntsville. And we're going to be talking about a little bit of Ready to Love, but really we're going to focus on Love and Marriage Huntsville. So I wanted to make sure I got the girls out the way before that. So if you guys are watching this is definitely not when I'm usually on. Usually we are Mondays, Sundays, and Wednesdays, and of course Fridays. Hey Tammy. But hey, welcome, come on in. Like I said, I wanted to make sure I got this one done because I want to be up to date when the new episode airs this weekend and ready to go. I'm going to give people a few minutes to come into the room. Just a few minutes to come into the room. We are talking about Heart and Hustle. And before I got started, I had this amazing picture of our girl, Khloe. Our girl, Khloe, is looking absolutely amazing. Like, girl, she does. It's no surprise that this episode opened with Khloe on a date with her man who is 17 years younger than she is. But, looking like that, you can understand why she has been able to do it. She's a beautiful woman. But I do have some things to say about the date. If you guys noticed, she took him to like a Dave and Buster's, some type of sports play date. And she said, he's young and she wanted him to have fun. And I was like, that is going to be the issue. Now, for those of you that watch the show, yes, Khloe does look absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it's a cast of beautiful women. Khloe is definitely a gorgeous woman, beautiful on the outside. A part of me can't help but think that Khloe has a lot of pain inside after losing her husband. If you guys watch the show, you know that her husband passed away suddenly. I think he had a heart attack, and that was the love of her life. They had 2 children, 2 beautiful girls. And so she is in a grieving state, but trying to push through. And I said last week, when I look at Khloe and, we see some of the things that she does, some of the things that she says, some of the ways that she acts, I want to give her grace, because I just want to say unexpected death is probably one of the worst things that can happen to you. It is unbelievable. I would say divorce feels like death, but when the person you're in an amazing relationship and you're loving them and they're loving you and they're all of a sudden snatched away, we have to be easy, not too much judgment, on someone dealing with that, because that is something that's unspeakable. It's just beyond words. So I just want to give her some grace. I want to apologize for that. Is going to bother me the entire episode that my door is open. You guys can see my that's the washer. But anyway, I'm gonna try not to focus on it. But I'm probably not gonna be able to. So what I'm gonna do, you know what? Let me put Khloe back up here for a second. Y'all, let's look at Khloe. That the young man is 17 years younger. Let's put that into context. Basically, that means she was about to graduate high school, if not already out of high school when he was born. That is the context that we are in. And in my personal opinion, uh, that is quite a stretch. 10 years is one thing, almost 2 decades is something else. And even though she shows up as this strong person who's okay with it and she's bragging about it, my man is fine. As we know, as we get older, that is okay. It's great to have a good looking guy, but that is not all that's required for a relationship, is the look, right? And the fact that he looks good and she uses that as like almost like a bragging right, against the other women is not, to me, it's not cool, but I feel like it's acting out. It's bad behavior because of her being dealing with this, the way she's dealing with her grief. Okay. So we see the scene opens. They are at someone said it was an amusement park. It did look like a sports amusement park. To me, it was like some type of place where I would have taken my son for one of his birthday parties when he was in middle school. He does look like he could be her son. He's an attractive boy, but when I was looking at him, I was like, he looks like his features are not even settled. Like, he still has like the baby look to him, right? Like, you could tell when people are like, he looks really, really young. Like, he don't look like a man. He looks like a boy, right? Again, he is legal, so she's not doing anything wrong, but and they do look, they look good together. She looks beautiful, but it's not about that. It's about where he's at in life. Let's talk a little bit about the conversation. It's almost like she was just watching him eat and just watching him play and playing around with him, but it did feel very much like it was her son's friend. Even the way she was interacting with him, just like playing with him, but we don't get the feeling that he's not able to support her. Like, he's not able, even as we see in the conversation about her son, he's trying to prove his manhood. So because he's almost the age of her son, a lot of what he was saying about what her son should be doing, I feel, was wrapped up in the fact that he's trying to prove that he is a man, right? And that he is old enough to be taken seriously and to be the leader. I just feel like that conversation was further proof that it is a mismatch. It's probably fun for right now. She asked him how he felt about, with her getting older and her not looking the way she does right now. Because right now, Khloe is really focused on the fact that she looks good, right? And as she should, but there has to be some depth to it. So sometimes when we don't want to deal with reality, it's easier to stay on the surface, right? On the surface, I look good. I got a man that looks good. But is he able to feed you? Are you able to not feed you physically, but actually like emotionally and spiritually? I don't know. You know what I mean? I didn't get that from that conversation. Of course, he assured her that he would, but he don't know. He's a baby. He does not know what he's going to feel when, he is 30. Let's say he's 40 and she is 67. Like, whew, that is wild. That is wild. That is wild. That is wild. 57? No, if he's 40, and then so 57, he's 40 and she's 57, not 67, 57. But that's still like, that's 40 and 60. Let's just round. Let's just he doesn't know. He wants to say. And how many of you guys know when you were a certain age, you wanted to feel like, oh, I know what I would do. I know I wouldn't do this, but you don't know what you'll do. You don't even really know who you are when you're that young. You're just learning, right? And he, I don't know if he has children, but just it is a lot that he's going to have to mature on. And for the most part, men mature later than women anyway. So not only are men usually less mature until they get to a certain age, but now he's not even at that age. Like, it's just, he has not really become a man, right? He looks cute, but he doesn't have even man energy. And you can see when they had the conversation, she started talking about her son. Everything that he was saying about her son, I would not be having a conversation about my son with someone that's almost my son's age. She's looking to him for guidance, and he doesn't have any, you know what I mean? Because he's taking it personal. It's like she's talking about him because her son is his peer, you know? So I just thought that was a really uncomfortable scene to watch, and she started crying. I think she's just dealing with her pain and her grief. And I really hope she gets some counseling. I hope that she gets some therapy. And I also want to say that a lot of times with things like that, the only thing God and time are the only thing that are going to heal unexpected death of a loved one like that. It's the only thing that she can do is just give it time. And if she wants to date young boys, young, beautiful men while she's getting over it, I don't have a problem with that. But I just feel like trying to put him in a position where you're saying that you don't, but you really do want more from him than you're admitting, because you're trying to have a conversation with him like you would a man who was mature enough to understand. I also want to talk a little bit about the interaction with her and her son. I am a boy mom. I have a boy and a girl, and I really was uncomfortable. I'm not going to say that that doesn't happen, because every mother of a boy, specifically a mother of a boy who has been a single parent at some point, there are times when you have to make sure that you keep the respect, right? And I'm going to be, I'm always blatantly honest, with you guys, but I remember when my son was growing up after his dad and I divorced, when he got to that 15, 16 age, and he wanted to kind of exert his authority, and he was coming into his manhood, it could get a little testy. But I felt like her son is extremely disrespectful, which also tells me that he's hurting, right? I'm not sure what the relationship is with her and his father. From what we know, he is not the son of her husband that passed away. But because of the fact that she talks about him, in such, grandiose terms, and he seems to was the leader and the core of their home, I'm assuming he had a very positive impact on her son, right? Because most women are not going to marry somebody that doesn't, a good woman and a good mother is not going to marry somebody that is not a good role model, at least, and is involved or able to be involved with their son. So I'm assuming that he is also hurting, because they lost the father to the daughters, the husband, and probably someone that he considered a stepfather. And that is a very traumatic thing. But I do feel like the way he's talking to her is full of disrespect. And I feel like when a child is disrespectful at that age, that means that they don't need to be under your roof. There's not a way to ignore disrespect, because when you ignore disrespect, then you are complicit, and you are allowing it to, you're basically saying that this behavior is okay. And that's not acceptable. I know that's difficult. Trust me. There are most women, we could probably have a whole conversation on mothers and sons, especially single mothers and sons. It's definitely different when there's a father in the home, because a good father is not going to allow a son to get out of pocket with himself or the mother. He's not going to allow the disrespect. But there are so many examples of single moms and sons that are disrespectful, right? And the way he's talking to her, he's saying he's a rapper. That's what I look like. He's got this. There needs to be a man in the house or a man in the situation that is holding him accountable. And because there is not, he is definitely not going to listen to someone that's his age. And that's probably causing him not to respect his mother, right? I know a situation where a woman was working for a young man, and she ended up having an affair with someone that was his age. And he immediately lost respect for her, right? Because you got to know, men and sons, specifically with a mother, that a mother is a son's first love, as the Honorable Denzel Washington explained. The son is a mother's, last love, and the mother is the son's first love. So he's probably hurt by seeing his mom date someone that is his age, right? Because he knows how he thinks, right? And he does not like that energy, and I can understand it. My personal opinion, not that she's asking for it, would be that she kept her relationship away from her son. Myself, I was just talking to a girlfriend of mine earlier, and when I was single, when I finally started dating, I did not bring every guy I dated. I didn't actually introduce my kids to anybody until I got ready to get remarried, right? They met one person because we were moving, and they didn't see him in a dating way, but I just felt like I did not want my children exposed to every person I dated. Not that I dated a whole lot, but still, I just felt like that there are certain things that are sacred. You don't just run people in front of your children. And if I did that, I definitely could have lost some of my son's respect, right? And that's just the reality. If I had, say I had dated 5 guys, in 5 years, and my son had to meet every single one of them, and they're trying to come in and be like that, that causes the child to lose respect for the parent, because you're exposing them to things that they really don't have any business being involved in, right? So I don't think that this young man that she's dating, if he's just for fun or whatever, that should not be something that she's bringing in front of her son, because it's causing him to lose respect for her. And also, the young man that she's dating does not know, he cannot parent someone's his age. Like, you're asking too much of both of them. That's not fair. DeQueeza says she does not know how to properly communicate with him. She's not showing any compassion. She's just acting as if she wants to live her life unbothered. I agree 100%. Like, you got to realize that they are both hurting, right? The father, the husband and father passing away unexpectedly has left everybody with pain in the house. So her saying, well, this is my life, you just got to get over it. Okay, if you're going to say that, then you need to have your son leave. So he's not sitting up in here being, having to see it. He needs to leave anyway at this point, in my opinion, because he's being disrespectful. And what you cannot do, in Christal's opinion, is be under my roof and be disrespectful. So either you going to stay under the roof and have respect, or you're going to get out and have the disrespect. We can't do both. We cannot do both. We must choose one. And it can be your choice. I'm not trying to put you out, but if you're in the house, a rapper is not a job. Rapping is not a job. You are old enough. And I think what she's probably doing is she's probably realizing that he's hurting. And so she's trying to give him grace by not forcing him to get a job, because we all want to encourage our children's dreams, and we want them to be better than us. Well, good parents do. You want your children to be better than you. You want to encourage them. You want to put them in position, right? So maybe she wants to help him be a rapper, but allowing him to sit around the house, not recording and not doing anything and not contributing financially is not helping him. Hey, you there? My grandmother used to say that all the time: ish or get off the pot. But most importantly, if we're trying to raise men that will be good head of households and be responsible men, then we're not allowing them to just lay around the house and not do anything and talk to us crazy as women. That is unacceptable. You know what I mean? And again, I'm saying this, I'm not judging her. I'm saying this with grace, because I've been a single mom with a son. And I sent my son was accepted into college early. And I allowed him to go because I did not want to coddle him. And I realized that the relationship, he was never disrespectful like that, but they can get, teenagers can get a bit mouthy, girls and boys. And I don't think disrespect, I think whenever you allow disrespect, you encourage it. you feed it, right? And when you feed it, it doesn't get better. So it's really better for the child to leave, and then for you guys to connect on the relationship later when they've learned a little bit. Sometime you go out, you need to hit your head, just a bit, so you can understand, oh, wait a minute, my mom is providing a home for me. My mother is doing this for me. Maybe I need to respect that. Like, sometimes you have to go out into the real world and understand that nobody cares about you out there. My mom, you're treating the only person that really cares about you badly. And I do think this young man is lashing out at her because he's hurt. One thing that I have learned, and I tell you guys always, I'm always learning. But I share what I have learned, is that men, young boys and men, when they are hurt, as opposed to being sad, they are angry and sometimes mean. And so I think his meanness and his indifference and aggression in the way he speaks towards her tells me, as someone that has seen that, is he's hurt, right? And he's acting out. He did say he was embarrassed, as most boys would be, by their mother dating someone their age. That's just, unless you have a very different son. Most boys put their mom on a pedestal, right? They don't want. I remember my son was in high school. He was a freshman and my daughter was a senior. And I remember I would have these Juicy Couture jogging pants on. And my son, one day, was like, Mom, please do not come to my school anymore with those jogging pants on. Now, I'm just like, if I'm going to pick them up or I'm going to do something around the house, I'm just thinking these are just, little boys are crazy. Little teenage boys can find attraction in anything. But I remember my son was like, he was serious. He was like, Mom, don't come to my school. If you have those jogging pants on, don't come to my school. Like, and I'm like, well, Stone, well, don't come to my school in that dress either. Like, he was very just over the top. And some people would say, well, you can't tell me what to wear. And my first instinct was to be like, well, Stone, that's none of your business. But then I realized he was saying that because he did not like to hear the boys' response when I wore that to the school. So I had to take him into consideration, right? Because yes, I am the mother, he is the child, but I'm not trying to embarrass my son or make him feel like he has to, defend me at school. So I can understand that her son is feeling like he wants to protect his mom and he's not able to protect her. I think that they probably need a therapy session. We saw the therapy session with the friends. They need a therapy session. But really, really, truly, I think the son, it's time for him to go. I don't know. Like I said, I really hope that as the season goes on, we learn a little bit more about where's his father? Like, is his father an option? A lot of times the father is not an option, which is unfortunate, but he does not need to be in the house talking to her like that and eating her food and up under the amenities. It's just not, that does not work. And like I said, when you don't check it and you allow it, then you're saying it's okay. And I think that's what is happening in that situation. Just to wrap that up, I think that interaction with her and him by himself, her and the boyfriend by himself, it showed how unequally yoked they are, just in maturity. And then when she brings him to the event and she's kind of showing him off, I think he's like a pretty trinket, right? And it's something that keeps her from having to face what she's really dealing with, because if she's dating a man that's more on her level, I think she also wants something that's very different than her husband, because she doesn't probably want to compare somebody. So this is the total opposite of him, right? And it's sad and it's hard to watch. But bragging about your young boyfriend and then kind of showing him up against the other ladies' men. Anyway, we're going to give Khloe grace because, like I said, she's experienced something, but I really would not have cared. I mean, it's kind of like if you now, this is the thing, but I will say, the funny thing about this is everybody was okay with it. I didn't see any social media outrage. But what if, no, the husband wasn't his father, Auntie Kim. The husband wasn't his father, but I'm assuming because her and the husband were together for 7 years, and there's so much grief. I'm assuming that he and the boy and her son had a relationship, and it was probably like a father, a stepfather at least, a role model to him, and he's got to be hurt as well, right? I do want to say this, ladies, because we have to be honest. So she brought her young man to the event, right, to show him off. Can you guys imagine what would happen if there was a show with men, and men brought a man in his 40s, almost 50, brought a young woman in her 20s and was like, yeah, my girl is fine, right? Compared to y'all's, like, we would give him the business. How dare you bring this child in here and try to compare and make it seem like we're lacking because she's a child. Like, she's just got through puberty. Of course she don't have this and that and that. Like, if it was reversed and a man said to another man, your wife ain't fine, and then said, look at my wife, how fine is my wife because she's young, we would have served him the business. Can y'all admit that? I'm just saying it didn't really bother me too much because of it was a woman and a man, right? It's a young man and a woman. But if that had been reversed, I think about all these social media influencers that are like, we don't like older women and we prefer young women. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna just turn them off, turn the TV off. I don't want to, I'm not gonna hear that negativity. I don't want to hear that. But if it was a show, a reality show, and a man acted like Khloe with a young woman, we would not rest. We would not rest. We would not rest until we had torn him down. So I just want to say, we got to be real. We got to be honest. That ain't cool. And if it is cool, then when it's done the other way, we got to admit it. It's like, because there are a lot of men saying that I don't want to date an older woman. I want this woman because she looks like this. She don't have no baggage. That's the same thing Khloe's doing, comparing her dude to Elena's husband, which is not cool. Not cool. I'm just saying. I want to be honest, ladies. We got to keep it real. So yeah, they have been throwing that stuff in our face, but I'm just saying, if we're gonna make it okay, trust and believe it's coming around. It's coming. We ain't gonna like it. It ain't gonna feel good when it happens, but it's going to come. So I'm just saying, we got to be aware. We got to be aware of the double standard. If we're gonna say, oh, I went and got a young man and he looks better, and look at her husband that he's not fine. And then we got to know that if there's a show with men on reality shows and they're talking about how the young woman looks so much better than the older women, we just got to swallow that. And yes, they have been doing Shannon. Well, first of all, we are not talking about Shannon Sharp, but I'm just saying that his situation was totally different, because not only was he being racially being ageist, but he's also participating in a racist conversation that we're not even gonna go. He's beyond our scope. We care nothing for him. But yeah, let's move on. So I just wanted to say that. Let's talk about you know what? I really enjoyed the conversation. Because I feel like this show is giving us the opportunity to see some real conversations. I have, girlfriends. We all have girlfriends that some of these things are realistic. The conversation with Labrina and her mother and father was, I really thought that was a great scene. They were very honest. It was just some real TV. I think that, a lot of us that, that grew up in a generation before this one here, parenting was very different. And one of the things that is different then is, not he was a regular looking black man. I mean, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, MT69. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, but I'm just saying she was making some comparisons because he looks young. You got to say, what will he look like when he's the same age as Elena's husband, probably the same. You know, she's talking about he's not fine, but I mean, is young fine? Like young? I mean, no, I'm not saying that fine don't come in young, but the way she was doing it was like, well, he looks better because I mean, he just exited puberty, so we know things are sitting up different ways. He don't need the testosterone; he got it all. It's coursing through the veins. It's coursing all the time. But realistically, um, that would not be cool the opposite way, and I don't think it was cool that way. Now, some of the ladies said that her boyfriend was fine, but that's not all that you need as a grown woman. You know, it's nice, but you need a little bit more than that. And when he can't even, have a real conversation with you about your child, it's not. It's not probably the best relationship. You know what I mean? And you could tell. I felt like watching that scene. I could tell that she knows that there's going to be some problems. Girl, I would just say enjoy it while you can. Stop bringing that man around your children, and just go to therapy and get some help for your grief. MT69 said Labrina had a point about some Black parents not assisting their kids after 18. And thank God my parents aren't like that. Heck, they will still assist me when needed, and I'm in my 50s. That's what I was gonna say. I think the generations are so different. I was talking to today, my veterinarian has a vet tech that's 33, right? And they came to our house. Our vet comes to the house to give the dog shots or whatever. And he's 33 years old, and he was saying that, I was asking him why wasn't he going to school to be a vet? Why was he a vet tech? And he was like, it was just really hard. And it was just, they paid me to go to school. It was just really hard. And I was just like, what? Our generation, we just did not have that type of coddling from anybody, parents, school, it was very different. Right. But I also think that there's probably a ditch on either side of the road. When I hear young people today accusing their parents of things, I'm like, we did not have that option. Like, our parents did the best that they could. A lot of times, there were a lot of parents that were no nonsense and were not helpful, but there was always, like, I said what I said, and you don't question me. It's because I said so, right? That was enough. Nowadays, a parent says something, the kids are like, but you don't. And I'm like, how are y'all even responding back and forth? Because for me, if my mom said something, that was it. And sometimes it might have felt harsh, but it also made us resilient. It also gave us the opportunity to make those mistakes and learn from them. I do appreciate Labrina being honest about the fact that it was hurtful to her, and that she does kind of, she probably has some emotional scars from having to go through that. And I love the fact that she was honest about it, even at this point where she looks like she has everything, right? And she's still able to say, this was hard and this was messed up, and I still am carrying these emotional scars. I also appreciate her mother being open enough to say, to really try to explain that, and then to take some accountability for it, right? I could definitely understand that. I mean, my mom was very supportive. My mom probably didn't have a lot to support me with. But I also had a dad that was not able to be supportive and was not interested in being a part of my life. So there's a lot of things that some of us had to go through and just figure out on our own. But when you do that, I think there are emotional scars that you take with you and that you have to heal from later. And so I definitely appreciate it. That was just a really real conversation. MT69 says, in Labrina's defense, she was a teen, held a frontal cortex isn't fully developed until 26, probably why she put up with her husband's cheating when they dated. Since she needed to secure the coins. Okay, you made a correlation. I'm not mad at it. I will say, a lot of times young women do make decisions based on need as opposed to love and having a good sense of self. It's out of survival, right? And I always was like, I don't want my daughter to have to make a bad decision and look to a boy as a means to survive. But I also don't want to create to coddle and create a 30-year-old child. You know what I mean? So it's finding that balance and kind of knowing your child. I do think that we're going to hear a lot from Labrina this season, because she seems to be there's a lot of depth there. The conversation with her parents, we do know she did hint that there was a lot of things that she has dealt with in her marriage. And she seems to have been able to do them and not be bitter. She's actually, I feel like, a really solid friend in the group, as far as how she looks at things, compared to some of the other ladies. She seems to be really solid. And I think that could have come from, her parents kind of letting her figure it out on her own. But I just think the generation was different. It was very different. And that generation was not into coddling. It was very much into you become an adult and you figure it out. And this is on you. You have to, you made your bed, now you lie in it. That was really the mentality, in the 70s and 80s. If you were born in the 70s or born in the early 80s, that was the mentality. This is your bed, now you got to lie in it. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. I love the fact that our chat is so personable. MT69 says, I got pregnant in college and had an abortion because I knew my parents would run my life until I could support myself after graduation. No. Yeah, I think, a lot of people a lot of times when you're young, you make decisions. And sometimes we regret them and sometimes we don't. I remember I got married and started having children in college, and that was difficult. But my mother was always, she was always there. There might not have been financial support. There was later, she got better. She excelled in her career, or got back into her career a little later. And so, but when I first, went to college and got married and got pregnant, my mom was always somebody that I could call, if something was wrong. And I never felt like I was on my own. I did feel like she might not have had a financial solution, but she was always there with support. And I've tried to do that with my kids as well. You know what I mean? And even if they can't, even if it's like, I'm not going to just give you the money to get out of it, because that doesn't really teach you how to survive. It teaches you how to call me when there's trouble, but I can be a guide and kind of, we can work through it. I'm never going to leave you out there, and I think that's something that we have to, as a community, try to instill in our children. A lot of other cultures do not just throw their kids out to the wolves, as soon as they graduate from high school. Nowadays, I don't know how kids can actually do that, because the world is so different than when we graduated from high school. There's not this, it's very different. But I thought that was a great conversation with Labrina and her parents. I look forward to hearing a little bit more from her on those early years with her husband and how she kind of managed to get in the position that she is, because even though she has those emotional scars, and she was saying very clearly it was not okay, and I just want you guys to know that she does seem to have really found a solid ground, and to be someone that is able to think logically and clearly, and even like, if you can be that way in the midst of having scars, that says a lot about your personality, right? So I really like her. She reminds me of my friend Shay a lot. They kind of seem to have the same personality. Pretty tough, but also very caring and kind, and also just really solid people, and just very beautiful. She's a beautiful girl. And she has a beautiful piece of estate, like the beautiful life. But I think she does a good job of she hands down has the most, but and you could tell she enjoys her life, but she doesn't seem to throw it in the other ladies' faces as of yet. We don't know what's coming, but she doesn't seem to do that. To me, she seems very, very grounded, even though she's very blessed, right? All right, let's get to our girl, Latoria. Latoria and Munira definitely, try to put their issues to the side. I do like the fact that Latoria opened up and shared her therapy session on the show. It's funny because I can tell you guys, I actually had a group of friends. It was four of us. We were all very, very highly type A personalities, or as I, like to say, she does look like Royce. Munira does look like Royce to me. But we were very much all alpha females. And we were all colleagues of a type. And we would get together and try to have dinner and support each other, like maybe once a month or once every other month. And there were just issues in the friendship, like these little issues, like these that we see, not necessarily identical to the ones on Heart and Hustle, but just difference in personality clashes. Some may be more type A than others, some more alpha than others. And so I am always the person in the group with that wants everybody to get along, and like Adrian calls me a care bear. I'm always like, well, guys, let's do. So I actually brought my therapist to a dinner with all of us. And it was an experience. It's funny because I was like, wow, I did that. And it was good. It was a good experience. I do think that more friends should do that, because sometimes we offend each other not trying to. It's just based on the lens that you see life, right? So if one of us comes from a single parent family, another is adopted, another comes from an affluent family, we all start from different vantage points, right? And then all being very, very career driven, success driven women. And so we needed somebody to just come and bring some perspective and some compassion. And I think that's what Latoria's therapist did. Do I think that fixes everything? No. And what I can tell you is, even though I brought the therapist, to Tammy's point, she said, I just accept the fact that some people just don't like each other, and that's okay. To Tammy's point, that friend group did disband. We all have personal relationships, but we could not continue to get together. And it disbanded, even after the therapy session. But I still think the therapy session was a great exercise, because it did allow us to see, number one, there were things about each other that we appreciated that we may not have shared, right? And it allowed us to see. So Munira, her issue of what she dealt with in her corporate experience, and probably what she's dealing with even in her home. Her mother lives with her, right? Her mother lives with her, and she said that she wanted her husband to take her and her mother on a date. It is ironic to me that someone who wants to go on a date with their mom would get upset at someone saying that they're like a kid, has a problem with people treating them like a kid. Am I crazy? I'm just saying. And I understand. I was like, well, maybe she shouldn't say a date, but to say that you want your husband to date you and your mom, just that sounds kind of like cutesy. That sounds kind of like, the kid. That's just me. I may be wrong. Y'all let me know if I'm wrong. I was just like, your behavior feels kind of kiddish. But I love the fact that her mom does live with her and she is involved. I think that's it's awesome for kids to grow up with close relationships with their grandparents. So that's a beautiful thing that she has in her family, but I think it's just ironic that she's fighting so hard. Like, I'm not a kid, I'm a grown woman. Oh, my husband to date me and my mom. What? So maybe the issue is not necessarily Latoria, what she's saying. Maybe it's more of you being in a little bit of contrast with what you have going on. You know what I mean? Most of the time our issues are really more with ourselves. You know what I mean? I don't think that saying someone is cutesy, because especially, and I'll say that because you guys know there was that viral video of very cutesy, very demure. Like, that was that was a viral moment that people started to say. Cutesy became like a term, right? Based on the a TikTok video. So I don't think that she was trying to, cutesy was like a child. Like it was from the TikTok video. And I'm not even, ain't a big deal. But I think because of what she's dealing with, she was sensitive to that. And I think the therapist did a good job of showing her that. That is Casey says, I don't think Munira's mom and husband have an issue at all. I think she needed more to talk about. Could be, but I do think, but I will say this, just the terminology of her saying a date, I want to go on a date and with my mom, that to me, that is weird. I would say, why don't we do things as a family? We should all do something, but I don't know about us all going on a date. That feels weird to me. That's my own lens, right? I think that I feel like she was just too sensitive to it. And I think that if you listen to Latoria's story, her backstory about how she felt about herself and how she's always been viewed. And if you develop early, and she mentioned that she did, then you're going to probably get more people thinking that you're more mature, even though you may be the same age, right? I remember being, when you start to develop as a young woman, people start treating you differently, and that doesn't stop. And so I think for Latoria to say that she looked 12, I think that she was saying that, and she actually said it. She was like, I wish I looked like that. I think you look great. I think that's based in her own insecurities about some of the things that she's dealt with. And I think that Munira was dealing with her own insecurities. I don't think that she meant she looked unsexy. See, hey, you there, I think that's you putting that on that. You putting the 10 on the 2. That's not saying that she's unsexy. That's saying that she looks really young. You're at a spot. And like I said, we all have a different lens based on where we've gone through. That is, and I told you guys, I'm like, I won't go back in that, but I told you guys about how Chili calls me junk in the trunk. I don't like that, but that's because I don't like it. You know what I mean? I was always very insecure about the junk in the trunk. And she grew up, she's like, I had the shape of a boy. And I wish, so we both were able to see, okay, I see it as an insult. You see it as a compliment. As friends, I'm not going to get mad at her because she's saying something. I will tell her I don't like it. She still calls me that. But I understand she's not trying to be mean. And I think that the therapist, thankfully, we have a friendship that we're able to see that. But I think the therapist was able to kind of show that at the table. I do think Munira was still kind of on one, because when Latoria was like, I want to read this letter, she's like, before you read the letter, like she's really standing on that hill. Like she really feels some kind of way. And I think that's interesting. I look forward to next week when Elena enters the chat because obviously Latoria is not the only person that has offended her with these statements, right? And so we'll see what happens with that. But I thought the therapist was a good addition to that. I think it's the same thing as what we talked about with Ro, when Ro was saying that, Latoria, because she said, I'm a child of God, that made her feel like she couldn't talk to her. Like, she didn't say that. All she said was she's a woman of God. That doesn't mean that you can't feel comfortable talking around her and she's judging you. You assumed all of that because of how you see things. And I think that friendship therapy, I don't necessarily know if that's needed all the time. And like I said, my group of friends that we had to do that, it did not work. So maybe that's a sign that the friendship was not as strong as it was probably a waste of my money. But I do think that we have to have grace as we mature to be able to understand that not everybody's trying to hurt you. Sometimes people think that people are trying to hurt them, and it's really you hurting yourself or you assuming something. So that's just maturity, and having a little bit of grace for the other person and not always assuming the worst. But I also think it's very healthy to be honest with people about how you feel. And with friendships, as opposed to letting something go on and on and on, and then you snap on the person, it's a good idea to say that when it happens. See, Tammy says her saying I'm a child of God is saying you're a heathen. I don't think that at all. I do not agree at all. I think if I say I don't want to talk about my sex life on camera, and you say you give me pushback, and then I say, girl, I'm a woman of God, I'm kind of teasing. That doesn't mean, that doesn't have anything to do with you. It only has everything to do with me. It's kind of like when I go someplace, if I say I'm not going to drink, people when you're judged, I don't care what you do. You can drink every drink in this bar. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. It doesn't mean it, but a lot of people think if you're not drinking, then that means you're judging them. I'm not drinking or smoking. Do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. But I think when we're insecure about something, or we assume someone else is doing it, it's all through your lens. So I really feel like heels and feels really should be more about like the the glass, the rose colored lenses that we look through, like, because everybody, exactly, Tammy, we're all children of God. I just said I'm a woman of God. If you're a woman of God too, it's cool. I'm only talking about me. What if Latoya said we're women of God? Then Ro would have had a fit and thought that meant, so you saying I shouldn't talk about, girl, do what you want. And true, Casey Johnson's point, Latoya works in an image conscious business where Ro works in nightlife and is less conservative. See, that's the kind of grace and maturity I'm talking about. Being able to point out, as a publicist, our job is to make things look proper, right, and appropriate. It is not, and if you work in nightlife, you're definitely going to be a lot less mindful, of that. It's not personal. It just speaks to your personality. And I think it irritates me when people assume because one person is not doing something that they have a problem if you do it. It's like, or that you're trying to be fake. I talked about that, y'all. That pisses me off. Like, if you think just because someone doesn't curse or someone doesn't do something, they're being fake. Maybe they just don't want to do that. That doesn't mean they're fake. That just may be who they are. Not everybody is the same. And we, especially as Black women, have to start understanding we are not all a monolith. And I have to be able to appreciate you for who you are. If you are someone that talks about, your sex life and you're very overt about it, or you know what, if you're a girl that likes to go and immediately start to twerk when a song comes on, that is not me. But I don't have a problem with that. I have friends that are like that, they're fun. You know what I mean? I don't think that I'm not fun because I don't do that, but that's just not me. But if they start to think, oh, well, she thinks she better. No, I just don't twerk at a random beat. I don't do it. It doesn't make me feel any kind of way. If you want to hear a random beat and automatically start to twerk on. It's okay. We just different. It's fine. It is fine. It does seem like it does seem like, see, I'm like you, Tammy. I don't drink, but in my kitchen, there's so much liquor because when people come over, I want them to feel comfortable drinking. It sits there because, people don't come over a lot. We'll be coming over even. I don't just have learned to keep people kind of out of your house, but I don't have a problem with it. And I want people to feel comfortable. Now, they can't smoke in the house, but if they want to smoke cigarettes or cigars outside, I'm fine with that. I've even had people smoke something else outside. There's enough wind to blow it where it wants to go. I'm not going to judge you, but don't judge me because I don't want to. Do not judge me because I don't want to. That's fine. I'm not going to judge you. You don't judge me. And we can be cool all day long. But I thought it was a good episode. I think if I had to rate heels and feels, it was more like of a bonding episode because I've seen some of the comments you guys say. I don't really think that these women were all connected prior to the show. It does feel very much like they were brought together for the show. Some of them may have some real connections, but I think for the most part, the group was put together because They thought they would have good chemistry, and because of what's going on in their lives, I mean, obviously Khloe dating this really young guy and having this storyline of losing her husband, Labrina being like this wealthy, woman with this beautiful estate, and then Latoya being the publicist to put it all. Like, it makes sense. I get it. Row with the nightlife. It's a good group, and Munira being like the Miss Press and having it does make sense. But I think this was kind of something to try to bring to kind of create chemistry. So it was necessary. I think it was like a developmental episode. So we got a chance to see a little bit more about Labrina, understand what makes her tick. Latoya, we're seeing a little bit more about her. And I'm telling y'all, a publicist is going to be very hard to get up in her business because our entire life is based around presentation. So it's going to be difficult to really get a vulnerable side to her. But I think that's the beauty of, a show like this. Even with Khloe, because of her going through so much grief, it probably will be hard to get to the real nuts and bolts of it. But that also is something that will make it for a great storyline to see her be able to come through that. Bell Collective, you know what, this show I actually connect with a little bit more than Bell Collective. Bell Collective is it seemed like people are trying to be something that they're not. It doesn't feel very realistic to me. And maybe it's because it's in Jackson, Mississippi. I think I relate to these ladies a little bit more. I like Bell Collective, but I'm just saying I think this feels more genuine. I feel like with Bell Collective, we see a lot of posturing and performance and I don't know, a lot. But I really do like this group of friends. I do think that they're put together and they probably aren't going to be real friends. Kind of like the girls on Housewives. They're not real friends because they don't really hang out when the season's not on, right? They come together when the season is on to give us entertainment, and then they break off. And I could see this kind of being like that because Elena having the issues with her husband, I think she and Labrina probably can connect, but Ro and Khloe more like Latoya is going to be doing her own thing because she's so, she's the glue. I would bet that she probably helped put this show together because that's what publicists do. But I think it was good. Overall, I'm going to give tonight's episode a 6.5 because it didn't have a lot. Well, I'll give it a 7. I'm going to give it a 7 because it definitely set us up to get to know the characters more, even if it wasn't really exciting. I think next week is going to be exciting with Elena confronting Munira. So I'm going to give it a 6.75, 7. It was good. I'm not going to say anything about that. MT69, I'm not going to respond to that. But it is a very good show. It feels like it has a lot more class, not a little bit more, a lot more class than Bell Collective. Hey there, it has not been confirmed that he cheated. She said that he had an affair while they were engaged. So I don't know what that means. He had an affair while they were engaged. I don't know if it continued, but she did confirm that when she was talking to Labrina. And I think that we're going to hear a little bit more of that. I would give her credit because it's got to be very difficult to come on a reality show with you and your husband like that. I do think that Latoya's comment last week about, would they do a vow renewal was inappropriate. Very inappropriate. You know what I mean? I don't think she should have said that. You don't do people like that. That you let them work through that. Marriage is difficult. And especially from someone that's not married and not in a relationship. Girl, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Like, don't do that. Because you don't know how difficult they got to go home. And then you just made it. And then Elena you could tell she was hurt because he did not respond the right way. Or he didn't respond the way she would have liked. And the husband says she needs to heal. Yeah, that was not cool. Because this is the thing, and for those that have been cheated on before, you really can't tell somebody when to heal. Like, and what I've learned is if you bury something, that doesn't mean that you heal from it. You just stuff it down. And then eventually it's going to pop back up and it's going to be still a painful place. So cheaters need to not be trying to rush other people through the healing process. And in fact, they need to figure out, what can I do to make you feel secure? That's a great thing for someone that's a cheater to do. How can I make you feel more secure, right? But yeah, people, and then you should keep your mouth off of people's situations if you're not in it. Or if you want to say something, she could have taken Elena to the side and said, hey, you know what, maybe this could be something that I'm praying for you and your husband to get back on solid ground. Maybe you guys could do this. But to say it in front of the group when she knows they're in a bad place, I thought that was foul. I do think that because Latoya is a publicist, she's probably trying to, oh my God, she's probably trying to make this storyline. Casey said, I think Elena's husband either has a baby or a man. Jesus help us. Jesus help us. Not a man, not a baby. Y'all, come on. Come on, Casey. Not a man. Not a man or a baby. As hard as it is to leave somebody you love, if they had a man, you're going to have to leave, because it's just not going to. A man, it can't be a man. You know what? The XO family, sometimes we just, hey, I ain't seen cheaters with Peter. Yeah. Did you guys see Peter's ex? What was her name? Amina went online and said that her and Tara are cool now. And she's, bless her heart. Bless her heart. Anyway, I'm going to get out of here. It is late on a Thursday. You guys, we will be back tomorrow. Trust me, please be here tomorrow on time at 10 o'clock for us to talk about Love and Marriage Huntsville. There's a lot to unpack. Tammy, I'm getting off here tonight with y'all. I will be back. If you're watching the replay, let me know, what would you rate heels and feels? Do you feel like you got a chance to get to know the ladies more? What are you looking forward to? Are you like me, looking forward to Elena straightening out Munira? What are y'all looking forward to seeing with the girls? Who are you feeling right now? Do you have favorites yet? Are you at that point? I do like Labrina. I would say Labrina is probably my favorite right now. But I like all the ladies, but I really like Labrina. I like Ro. I have empathy and compassion and grace for Khloe. That's what I'm going to say. But I definitely look forward to seeing that. I really hope Elena and her husband don't end up like Melody and Martell Holt. I really hope they do not. I hope this show does not speed them towards separation. And if so, I hope it is not because of the show. I hope the show is not a motivator in that. Labrina has a spa and a wealthy husband. That's what she does. She has a spa. I think it's called Escape. And then she is married to a former NFL player. So the two of those things together have rendered her wealthy. So anyway, yes, let me know what you guys think. Rate the show. Put your ratings down in the chat. If you're watching on the replay, put your rating in the chat. Let us know. Monique and Chris too. Yes. Monique and Chris. But yeah, let me know what you rate tonight in the chat. Make sure that you're here on Friday night at 10 p.m. for Ready to Love and Love and Marriage Huntsville. Tomorrow night is going to be focused on Love and Marriage Huntsville. So I love you guys for watching. Please have an amazing night. Finish the week strong. Tomorrow is Friday. It's the end of the week. Make sure that you tune in with me tomorrow. Let me know what you're doing for the weekend. I am going to the Breezy Bowl on Sunday. My daughter and I are continuing our tradition of the Breezy Bowl. So I will let you guys know how that show is. Saturday, I have a photo shoot for the magazine I'm editor-in-chief for. So that should be a fun time, and I'll share some of that with you guys. But yeah, I'm looking forward to going to this later this month, and I'm going to run the ad. If you're in Atlanta and you want to go to the Soul Symphony, which is the Atlanta Fashion and Polo Classic, it's going to be an amazing weekend, September 19th through the 21st. I will have discounts for anyone that watches this channel that wants to go. Child, I'm not doing no $1,500 pick. I'm never would not never not with nobody, and I would not. I'm not allowing my child to do that either. As old as grown as she is, I would whoop her behind if she paid $1,500 to disrespect herself in a picture with Chris Brown. We're going to enjoy the show, but we are not doing any meet and greet photos. So anyway, like I said, love you guys. Please leave your ratings. Thank you, Tammy, for that rating. You say a 7 as well. Leave your ratings in the chat, and I'll see you guys tomorrow at 10. All right? Have a good one. See you tomorrow. Bye.